Hey Woodhaven family, and welcome back to the Journey 24/7 podcast. Today we're going to be jumping right back into Exodus chapter 2. If you remember yesterday in Exodus 1, we finished up with seeing that Pharaoh ordered that all of the boys born to the Hebrews, or the Israelites, he ordered that all the boys would be killed. And so that leads us here into chapter 2, where we see the birth of Moses. This is a story that most of you have probably heard before, but we open it with, now a man from the house of Levi went and took as his wife a Levite woman. Now, the house of Levi would mean that they came from Joseph's brother Levi through his lineage. And remember, they were both sons of Jacob or sons of Israel. And that's extremely important because now we're seeing how these tribes of Israel are kind of coming to. And so this is a Levite man and woman, and they have this child. Once this son, has grown into being 3 months old, they can no longer hide him. Because remember, they're hiding him because of this charge that all the Hebrew boys would be killed when they were born. And so his mom, Moses' mom, takes him and puts him in a basket and puts him in the river. Well, one day Pharaoh's daughter is going down to the river and she sees this basket and she opens it and she sees the child. And she sees that Moses is crying, and it says she took pity on him and said, "This is one of the Hebrews' children." So then Moses' sister comes to Pharaoh's daughter and says, "Shall I go and call you a nurse from the Hebrew women to nurse the child for you?" Again, this is Moses' sister. She knew this was happening because his sister, it says back in verse 4, that she stood at a distance to know what would be done to him. So Moses' mom puts him in this basket in the river. His sister watches what's going to happen. She sees Pharaoh's daughter come and open it. And then think about the courage that it took to go to Pharaoh's daughter, this person that's very powerful, and say, "Hey, do you want me to go find a Hebrew woman to nurse the child?" Because in doing that, you're also telling Pharaoh's daughter, "Hey, I know I'm going to help you keep this son alive that your father ordered to be killed." But Pharaoh's daughter responds and says, "Go." So the girl went and called Moses' mom. And Pharaoh's daughter said to Moses' mom, "Take the child away and nurse him for me, and I will give you your wages." So she took the child and nursed him. So think about this. Moses' mom is faithful and keeps her son alive for 3 months hidden. Then when she can no longer hide him anymore, puts him in a basket in the river so that hopefully he'll have some chance of surviving. And then because of the faithfulness of Moses' sister, and the way the Lord's working in all of this, Pharaoh's daughter now brings Moses back to Moses' mom and pays her to nurse her child. The Lord moves in incredible ways. This is just truly mind-blowing when we think about this. It's incredible for a mom to just put her child in the river as a last hope to try to have some chance for her child to survive, to then have the child brought back to her so that she could nurse him and ultimately be paid for doing it. So when the child grew older, she brought him to Pharaoh's daughter, and he became her son. She named him Moses because she said, "I drew him out of the water." So think about, too, this would have still been hard for Moses' mom. She then had to come and bring Moses to Pharaoh's daughter and give him up back to her. This would have been hard. It would have been really, really tough. But she made sure that Moses at least lived. And we know that this is all part of the Lord's plan. This is all how he is working in this situation. And we're going to see this throughout the book of Exodus, what this is all leading to. But it says, one day when Moses had grown up, he went out to his people and looked on their burdens, and he saw an Egyptian beating a Hebrew, one of his people. So it shows he still identified with the Hebrews. He still identified with his lineage, with his genealogy. And he looked this way and that, and seeing no one, he struck down the Egyptian and hid him in the sand. So Moses murders this Egyptian. And it says that he buried him in the sand, hid him in the sand. And then when he went out the next day, 2 Hebrews were fighting together. And he said to the man in the wrong, "Why do you strike your companion?" The man answered, "Who made you a prince and a judge over us? Do you mean to kill me as you killed the Egyptian?" So Moses at this point realizes that people have seen him. They know what he did. And so he gets afraid and he thinks, surely this is known. And then when Pharaoh heard of it, he sought to kill Moses. But it says that Moses fled from Pharaoh and stayed in the land of Midian, and he sat down by a well. So we know that Moses was used in incredible ways by the Lord throughout his life, and we're going to see that in the coming weeks as we study all of Moses' life. But again, this is a reminder that God uses imperfect people. Moses murders someone and then flees out of fear, yet God uses him anyways. So Moses is in Midian and he sits down by this well, and that should bring up reminders to us of back in Genesis when we see Isaac, through the servant of Abraham, find his wife through this interaction at a well, and then also Jacob finding his wife through an interaction at the well. So we're seeing how there's well is this kind of common theme here. And my mind also immediately goes to, obviously, it was not through the lens of finding a wife, but the first thing that comes to my mind when thinking about this is also how Jesus talks with the woman at the well. And again, it's just showing how the Lord uses these everyday interactions, this place that would be a common place for people to come, to make these divine connections. Through the Old Testament, these men finding their wives, and then in the New Testament, Jesus sharing the gospel with the Samaritan woman. The Lord doesn't ignore the everyday circumstances. No, he uses them. So Moses is at the well, and he meets the 7 daughters of the priest of Midian. And then he goes and he meets the priest of Midian, that we later on in Scripture see called Jethro. Here we see he also goes by the name Reuel. And so Reuel/Jethro gives to Moses his daughter Zipporah to be his wife, and they have a child together. Meanwhile, during all of this, we end this chapter with seeing that God hears Israel's groaning. It says, during those many days the king of Egypt died, and the people of Israel groaned because of their slavery and cried out for help. So this king of Egypt has died at this point. Their cry for rescue from slavery came up to God, and God heard their groaning, and God remembered his covenant with Abraham, with Isaac, and with Jacob. God saw the people of Israel, and God knew. So God hears them, he hears them crying out. And tomorrow we're going to get to see the result of this. How the Lord responds and acts in this time of groaning of the people of Israel. So make sure you come back with us tomorrow as we jump into Exodus chapter 3 and see how the Lord continues to work. Hope you all have a great rest of your day, and I look forward to seeing you back here tomorrow on the Journey 24/7 podcast.